I made a video last weekend about Jaffa cakes, whether they were a cake or a biscuit, and kind of about, coming out of that, about classification, about how we make such assignations about things, how we decide whether something belongs in one category or another, cake or biscuit. And in that case I was talking about how there's a technical specification for what a cake is, which means it's right to say that a Jaffa cake is a cake, but there's also another kind of specification which is to do with how it's actually used, a more functional or pragmatic or practical understanding of what a cake is, how it functions in the world, what you do with it, i.e. you dip it in your tea or something like that, which means that it's right to call it a biscuit. In other words, the circumstances in which it's right to call it one thing, the circumstances in which it's right to call it another. I've been thinking about other examples, or I should just say that the rest of that video was really about what a man and a woman was, when it was right to use one of those terms or not. Should there be technical specifications of what a man is, perhaps related to primary and secondary sexual characteristics, or to do with genes or something like that? And similarly, technical specifications of what a woman is, or should there be some other kind of specification? And of course, crucially, who gets to make those choices? In the case of Jaffa cakes, a Jaffa cake is technically a cake because there is a body of authority you can appeal to which makes such designations authoritative. But there isn't quite that in the same way as with the words man and woman, other than out of very specific medical or psychological or something like that context. So I'll get on to that perhaps. But I've been thinking about other examples anyway. And the two examples I've been thinking of are milk and meat. And I was reminded of this milk one because I was watching a video by a YouTube guy called Mick the Vegetarian. Oh no, Mick the Vegan, that's right, who, as the name implies, makes videos about veganism. And they're always, you know, well informed, and he always cites papers. It's good stuff, you know. He seems to know what he's talking about anyway. But he was talking about milk in a recent video I watched of his, and how there's moves afoot in the States to write a new technical specification of what the word milk is and how it can be applied in labelling certain products. And really this comes with a bit of a backstory, because the dairy industry in the States, which is enormously powerful and has a very kind of odd and interesting history to it, the dairy industry in the States has been on something of a decline over the last few years. People are buying less milk. On the other hand, milk substitute, plant-based milks like almond milk or soy milk are on the rise. People are drinking more of those. And this move by the dairy industry is widely seen as an attempt to do something about that. And the case is that's being made by the dairy industry is that people are being misled by these plant-based liquid beverage producers. Consumers are being misled, so they go into a shop and see almond milk on the shelf and they think it's milk, like cow's milk or something, so they're buying it by mistake. So that's the case that they're making, that by calling it milk, plant-based milks are misleading customers. So they want the term milk to only apply to their products. In fact, if Mick the Vegan is right, I didn't check, but it seemed like he was told the truth. The specification that the dairy industry wants is that milk has to be bovine mammary secretions, i.e. the stuff that comes out of the udders of a cow. Now that is a really specific technical specification. By that specification, of course, the mammary secretions of goats or sheep or any other mammal, including humans, human breast milk, would not fall under the specification. So you couldn't call goat's milk milk if that legislation went through. Similarly, you couldn't call human breast milk if you were labelling it for sale somewhere. You couldn't call that milk because it doesn't come from a bovine. So there's something weird about that, isn't there? I mean, in a sense, it's ridiculous. I mean, actually, I should just say, by the way, that although Mick the Vegan was talking about the state, that legislation is already in place, or something like it is already in place in various other countries. I can't remember what it's like in the UK, but I know in some countries in Europe and Switzerland, I think, non-mammal based, plant-based substitutes like almond milk or soy milk can't be called milk. They have to be called liquids or drinks or something like that. But anyway, that's what's happening there. But the assumption is, I think, just to return to this different ways in which we classify things, whether we do apply a technical specification or whether we do something else, I think it's unrealistic to expect that people are going into supermarkets thinking, oh, I must get myself some of that bovine mammary secretions. That's not what they think, is it? I mean, that's not how your mind works when you go shopping. You don't routinely think in terms of technical specifications. You go up to the fridge and you think, oh, I want some of that white liquid I put on my cereal or in my coffee. You might not think in quite those terms. But it's more like that thought process going on, isn't it, really, than the whole bovine mammary secretions thing. In fact, if you did think bovine mammary secretions, I suspect you're less likely to buy the milk. Come on. Oh, look. Eggs for sale. £1. Ooh, half a dozen. So I don't eat eggs anymore, but I might have done them until recently. And if I was going to eat eggs, I would probably eat those because they're free range. And you can see the chickens running around, so they know I've got a good life. Baby! Anyway, just to... so that's milk. You know, technical specification. Interesting, perhaps being over-specified by the dairy industry. There's an attempt to do so. But we don't buy milk according to its technical specification. We buy it according to what we're going to do with it. And the same is true with meat, which is the other example I was thinking of. Because I came across some vegan butchers recently, vegan charcuterie people, who were, you know, making again meat substitutes, which is you know, things like vegan pepperoni or vegan chorizo or vegan bacon, that kind of thing. Which I should just say something about that. People often think it's a bit weird, including other vegans think it's a bit weird that that people would want to try to replicate the taste of meat or that taste of bacon or whatever it may be. But I think it's important to remember that meat doesn't taste like meat, by which I mean that the stuff that you get on your plate hasn't, in taste terms, tastes nothing like the animal from which it was sourced. It has to be prepared in certain ways and spiced and flavoured and obviously cooked before you can get to that taste which people enjoy. So meat doesn't taste like meat. So I don't think really any problem in kind of employing a bit of biomimicry to produce that flavour that we like using a different starting point. Anyway, that's kind of a side issue. But meat, yeah, again, I know there's moves afoot in various countries to try to limit what the term meat can refer to, because of these vegan and vegetarian alternatives cutting into their market, so to speak. And there's some words that you can't use. I can't remember what they are now, but I did a little bit of reading about this. There's some terms that which refer specific, which have been kind of corralled by meat, if I can use an appropriate term there, and vegans can't have those. But a lot of them are available, and I know there are vegan butchers around. Butchery hasn't been specified in an illegal sense to mean just the carving up of dead animals. It can mean the carving up of other things. So anyway, so meat, yeah, but meat's interesting because meat has I don't know how you do the technical specifications there, because the word meat has a longer history than meaning just the flesh of animals, hasn't it? It used to mean all kinds of edible things. You know, sweet meats used to be sweet. So meat itself didn't used to mean the flesh of animals at one time. It started to become, it's only become that over the last century or so, really. And now there's an attempt perhaps being made by parts of the meat industry, the animal industry, to restrict it only to that. It's kind of counter to history. And again, you know, I think when you're shopping for meat, you probably aren't thinking, oh, I must get a piece of that dead animal that is prepared in a certain way to give it that taste. You probably, and that texture, you're probably thinking, oh, I must get some of that stuff that's got that taste and texture that I like. Again, you're not thinking in exactly those words, but I think that's more like the thought process. You know, as it's functioning through desire. So I really like some of that chewy stuff that works a great sandwich with lettuce and tomato. That's probably what you're thinking about. Not to almost go and get a bit of a dead pig. Anyhow, yeah, so that's that really. Anyway, the last thing is just men really. Technical specifications, functional specifications, peak milk men. And women, of course. The difference between milk, meat and milk, and indeed Jaffa cakes on the one hand, and men and women on the other, is that those first three, milk, meat and Jaffa cakes, don't have any agency, do they? They haven't got any skin in the game, so to speak. They don't care what they're called. They don't care if they call it meat or not. A carton of almond milk doesn't care whether it's called almond milk or not. Its rights aren't being deprived by being by its label being changing, really. Whereas, of course, the sense is that men and women's rights might be being taken away or abused if they are mislabelled. Because men and women, of course, do have agency and do have a sense that they should be in have some rights about what kind of labelling they're subject to. You know, whether it be a technical, or whether it be according to some kind of use function, or whether it be according to pragmatics, or according to the appearance, or whatever it may be, really, or according to themselves. So yeah, milk, meat, and men.